"Don't you dare close that folder, Carl, you hear me?" Her voice was like gravel, steady, scraped raw. He shoved his palm across the conference table, sweating. "That's not yours to see, you've gone too far. You sold out everything for some developer, for what?" His teeth clenched. "I did what had to be done." She stood, knuckles dug white into the wood. "The law says different. Your name's all over this, pre-sale forms, altered probate, forged dates. You really thought no one would notice." Carl tried to snatch the file back, knocking a water glass. "You want to drag this family through court, that's what you want on the news." A hush thundered in the room. She didn't blink. "You're not going to bury this, not anymore." For a heartbeat, time stilled. Even the wind outside seemed to pause. But to understand how she ended up staring down the man who stole everything, you need to see where it all began. A bundle of moving boxes crumpled under her arm, the only thing holding them tighter than the cold Atlantic wind outside the empty apartment. The landlord stood in the hallway, arms crossed and shoes tapping against peeling linoleum. "3 days past notice, Miss Winters. Movers come in an hour." June didn't respond. With a bank account stuck on $53 and 2 lenders reeling after she defaulted on a pair of loans gone sour, her pride was just another item lost among the pile on the curb. Chicago's contractor game had turned merciless the last year, each lawsuit and deal gone wrong carving away a piece of her until only someone desperate remained. At the curb, her old blue Chevy sagged under cardboard laundry bags, a mangled coffee machine, the sum of 10 years she'd fought for. An eviction notice flapped in the wind, mocking. She stared at it and at her phone's screen. 4 missed calls from Carl. And then the message flashed. "Final hearing concluded. You get the house at 412 Elm Street, Lewiston. That's all." A house she'd never seen in a town she'd only heard whispered about in family arguments. The lawyer's voice still echoed. "Modest forest home, that's what's left after debts were paid. You should be grateful. Beats a tent, right?" The sneer sat in her mind, acidic. "Want to keep the shovel or should I charge you for it?" The landlord sniped, poking her last box out his door. She snapped, "Take it. Maybe you'll find something you didn't earn." He smirked, unfazed. June sank into the Chevy, hands trembling. Not for the house in Maine, but for the envelope pressed in with the title, a rectangle of heavy cream paper, wax seal still unbroken. Her gray-tanned spidery initials. What the hell could she possibly want her to see? As she tore it open, one phrase leapt from the page, a crude graphite map scrawled across wrinkled parchment. "In memory's shade, walk line between 2 oaks. Key is mine, vault for those with eyes open. You'll know when you see the light change." Her chest tightened, a clue, or one last family joke. The urge to throw everything in the river ward with something older, the hunger to prove she hadn't been beaten yet. If you've ever been told all you deserve is the scraps, but some crooked instinct tells you there's more beneath, this story is for you. Lewiston, Maine was gray even in May. The last flecks of spring clung to stubby grass between rippled sidewalks. Elm Street gutted its way through a fringe of pine and ramshackle mills, half the windows boarded. The car's transmission squealed as June wound up the narrow gravel lane, breath fogging the windshield in a steady rhythm. Every rut in the drive vibrated in her back. Years of construction grit, the burn of old debts, Carl's cold laughter. "Just sign, it's easier that way." Each memory arrived like a blow. The Chevy finally heaved before a squat house veiled by overgrown rhododendron and a forest stretching behind, a dark patchwork of spruce and oak. This was the grand prize. Weeds gnawed at concrete steps, the porch sagged, and paint peeled in ragged sheets. Modest was generous. She slid out, wind cutting through her jacket. Footsteps crunched on moss and gravel. Her boots sank into loam where the path forked between 2 tall, crooked oaks exactly as the map described. Between them, tangled undergrowth thinned and the light dimmed, filtering through warped branches. Something felt off, too quiet, the woods watching but veiled. A harsh flicker drew her gaze, old glass half buried. She knelt, brushing away leaves, revealing a rusted padlock bolted to what looked like a cellar door. "Well, that's a start," she muttered, prying the key taped to the back of the letter from its brittle wax. It fit the lock with a stubborn twist. The hinges shrieked as she pulled open the heavy hatch. Cold air spilled out, edged with must and something else, metallic and raw. She hesitated. If this was a cruel joke, it was elaborate, but if not. She flicked on her phone flashlight and descended, boots echoing against stone. At the landing, a wooden door, thick, reinforced, but the key worked again, clicking open. Inside, the dark scattered in her beam, shapes pale against black. Cabinets lined the walls of the hidden vault, profiles sharp in the thin light. Everything smelled of cedar and old secrets. She reached for the nearest handle, pulse drumming, and turned. It wasn't empty, not even close. A single breath, then the world changed. Roll after roll of velvet, emerald necklaces, cool to the touch, gleamed even in poor light. Ruby rings winked from mother-of-pearl trays, strands of pearls glistened in rotted silk, diamond tiaras pressed in century-old boxes stamped with New York jewelers' crests. It felt like a queen's ransom, generations sealed away, untouched and silent. The flashlight trembled in her grip. But that wasn't all. Papers lay stacked beside the trays, black and white photographs, hand-inked letters, brittle ledgers. She flipped through, scanning faded script, dates jumping from 1924 to 1973. At the bottom, a thick bundle of legal documents tied with a red ribbon. The words "revised will" marched in ornate hand, unsigned but notarized. Her great-aunt's name, and across the top in fierce pencil. "Do not trust Carl. Protect the estate for the rightful bloodline." Her stomach pitched, skin crawling. A letter clung to the bottom, the signature unmistakable. She unfolded it, fingers clammy. "Dearest Juniper, if you are reading this, it means I have lost the fight. Carl will try to erase you as he erased others before. My only shield is the vault and this proof. What you hold are the true assets of the Winter's women, not for sale, never meant for his hand. Trust the light. Where it changes, another path runs. Our roots go deeper than his paper chains will ever reach. Follow it. Use what you wish to claim what's yours, and for those who truly need. M.A. Winters." Her hands shook. The jewelry wasn't just beautiful, it was her lineage, buried out of sight the same way Carl had tried to bury her. Somewhere in that vault, the air tasted different, cooler. Her light caught on a wall, uneven beside a jag of stone. She pressed, and a panel fell open, revealing blackness. A tunnel, earth-packed and cool, sloped away. A hidden exit, another secret. She turned, heart pounding, as a low scrape echoed from above, footsteps close on the porch. She stilled, every sense razor-sharp. A phone rang, rattling through the house. She snuffed the light, silent, and made her way back up. The danger had shifted, and she wasn't alone anymore. Back in the main room, the phone buzzed again, Carl's name. She ignored it, mind racing. She needed help, real help, not another lie. She grabbed a velvet pouch, the unsigned will, and hurried out into the gray. The law firm of Fields and Pearson squatted inside a weathered house 2 blocks from Main. Inside, thick rugs muffled every footfall. The secretary stiffened as June blew in, mud still streaked on her jeans. June Winters, I need to see Mr. Pearson." "Urgent," she managed, thrusting the pouch and the letter across the counter. A pause measured, then the door opened. Pearson, late 50s, balding, thick glasses. He eyed her with the suspicion of someone burned before. "We're not representing your uncle, Miss Winters. He has his own counsel." "He didn't mention I'd have a reason to come here," she replied flatly, pushing the letter forward. "But my aunt did. This is about the will, about assets he's trying to sell before Friday." He held up a finger, scanning the legal bundle. These are genuine, and this," he pried back the seal on the pouch. His breath caught. "Christ, you know what you've got here." "Enough to burn down any lie Carl ever told," she snapped. "Unless you think otherwise." He paced, glasses glinting, carefully setting down each item. "If this will holds, your uncle's distribution is void, sale can't continue. The jewelry, easily tens of millions if provenance is proved, but we'd need court intervention. You're not safe, he'll come, he will fight, and you need proof he can't erase." Her voice stayed dry. "Will it be enough?" "If even half of this holds, you could seize back everything plus damages. but we've got maybe 36 hours before that sale closes. He's already signed a pre-agreement, a serious firm with big teeth." She nodded. "Then you better clear your schedule." He cracked a rare smile, thin as razor wire. "You know, most folks who walk in here want to settle fast and quiet. Why not just sign away the cottage and let him keep playing king?" She looked him dead in the eye. Because he never earned it, and because some homes are worth more than the highest offer when they're full of truth. He nodded, turning back to his files. "All right, we'll start with an injunction. You get me every document about that tunnel, every appraisal, every photo by dawn. No mistakes. This time, Carl doesn't walk away clean." She left, mind electric, the velvet pouch hot in her hand. Outside, dusk crept over Lewiston, and a storm swelled in the pine. The next morning broke with rain lashing the windshield. June's breath ghosted on cold glass as she navigated back toward Elm Street. The Chevy jerked over a pothole, coffee spilling across the seat. Every half-mile she checked the rear view, no sign of Carl, but a black Suburban prowled 2 cars behind. At the curb, she ducked beneath eaves, scanning for movement. Her heart drummed slow and deep. When she turned the knob, it was open. Some sixth sense screamed he'd been here. Inside, the place was ransacked. Boxes overturned, mud everywhere. Family photographs had vanished, drawers ripped apart, but the vault remained locked, its door heavy as ever. Her mind spun. What if he'd found another entrance? From outside, footsteps crunched on gravel. June snatched her phone and dove into a shadowed alcove. Carl's voice boomed through the entry, clipped. "Thought you could run off with something? You really think you're smarter than me, Juniper?" She froze, barely breathing. His tone was poison, exasperated, not afraid. She stepped out, defiant. "Looking for something, Carl, or do you just enjoy wrecking what you can't have?" He crossed the foyer in 2 strides, fists balled. "This house and land are mine to dispose of, always have been. I'm the only one who's held this family together." She cut in, sharp. "By hiding tunnels, by changing signatures on probate forms, your old tricks are tired." She slid the will and velvet pouch onto the table. His face blanched at the glint of emerald, then turned dark. "You don't know what that means. You never saw what she did, what she was trying to protect. Think you're brave? Try dragging the family's mess into a courtroom and see who gets burned." She didn't flinch. "That's the plan." A silence ticked by, heavy. He stepped closer, voice low. "You bring in lawyers, you make this ugly, even uglier than it has to be. You want more blood, or do you just want to win?" June didn't blink. "I want what's mine. For every name you wrote out and every piece you stole, I want it all back." He stared, a storm flickering in his eyes. "You're going to regret this," he hissed. "See you in court," she shot back, filleting her fear into something sharp. He slammed out, the echo rattling the windows. She held her ground, fists clenched, gaze locked on the jewels that had survived 4 generations, the paper trail leading deeper than any family story. The mask had slipped. Now it was war. Before dawn, June and Pearson compiled everything. Photos of the heirloom collection, the tunnel uncovered, the original will. Over black coffee and exhaustion, they rehearsed exactly how to present the evidence. No drama, just cold fact. "Do we go nuclear?" Pearson asked, wary. June weighed her options, a clean victory or a destructive one. Revenge would taste sweet, but Wright needed more than just the ashes left behind. "No, we do this by the book. He'll lose everything, but it's his own doing." He nodded. "It's your story, your call." By 7, they filed the court injunction, sending every document to the probate office and the developer's lawyers. News rippled. The sale was frozen. Suddenly there were more calls, more threats, but none that could stop what had started. They prepared for court, fatigue laced with adrenaline. As the hour neared, June's only regret was she hadn't trusted her gut sooner. The courthouse's marble shimmered under the fluorescence that morning, rainwater pooled on the stairs. June walked in, portfolio under one arm, every step a dare to her past. In the anteroom, Carl paced, jaw twitching, his lawyer at his elbow, a slick suit with an accent that sounded expensive. Carl's eyes speared her. "You ready to drag us through the mud in front of the whole damn county?" She spoke evenly. "You already did that, I'm just cleaning up." His lawyer interjected, voice oily. "Miss Winters, any negotiation is off the table. Your claims are baseless. My client did everything." June cut him off, producing a sheaf of notarized deeds and the thick legal envelope. "These say otherwise. The will was changed. The assets aren't yours to sell, and you falsified half the paperwork." Gasps rippled through the small gallery of locals and witnesses, some she knew from childhood, others just curious. The judge entered, a presence like thunder, gray hair swept straight as a blade. He called the room to order. Carl's lawyer tried to object, but the evidence June and Pearson presented was overwhelming. Original signatures, appraisals of the jewelry, photographs of the tunnel, copies of sale pre-agreements with forged dates. The judge's gavel clacked. "Your uncle," said the judge, "abused his fiduciary duty. Property will not transfer. Assets shall be recovered. Damages as well. Miss Winters, your patience is commendable. Do you wish to say anything?" June rose. The room felt too hot, the floor too tight. She kept her voice steady. "He tried to hide the truth, not just from me, but from every woman the Winters name ever touched. This house, the vault, doesn't just belong to the highest bidder. It belongs to the honest ones, those left out for convenience, not for lack of blood." She turned to Carl, eyes unblinking. In that instant, she remembered pressing her fists into the conference table, the weight of the velvet pouch, the taste of old metal in her throat. She faced him without blinking, the hush of the courthouse crowd pressing in. He tried to interrupt. "You have no right." She slammed the folder open, the evidence flaring under bright lights. "Don't you dare close that folder, Carl, you hear me?" He barked. "That's not yours to see. You've gone too far." She braced against the table, voice quiet, lethal. "You sold everything for some developer. For what?" His face reddened as beads of sweat broke along his brow. "I did what had to be done." She straightened, voice ringing through the marbled hush. "Your name's all over this, pre-sale forms, altered probate, forged dates. You really thought no one would notice." He tried to lunge for the folder, his hand knocking a water glass, papers scattering in a sudsy pool. The bailiff stepped forward, restraining him. "You want to drag this family through court? That's what you want on the news," Carl choked. June matched his stare. "You're not going to bury this, not anymore." The judge's gavel fell, echoing like final thunder. "Case decided. All assets revert to the rightful heir. Mr. Winters, you are liable for interest and damages. Expect asset seizure within the week." Carl slumped in his chair, breath drawn ragged, the room buzzing, a few bystanders clapping quietly. The lawyer was already packing, face stiff, eyes averted. As courthouse officers escorted Carl out, June stood in the center of the room, cool certainty settling on her shoulders. Every last piece, every whispered slight, every threat gone. Carl protested, voice ragged. "You're tearing apart 100 years. Is that what you wanted?" She just breathed light after a lifetime, unburdened. "No, just the truth." She watched him disappear, a hush filling the marble halls. Behind, Pearson gathered her things. "You played it clean, he'll lose everything. Home, assets, title, no appeal will save him." "That's not my problem," she replied, quiet, shock still tremoring her hands. "And Carl?" She checked her phone, already messages from old friends, local news requests, the charity board she'd reached out to a day earlier. "He can find a place in exile. Maybe that's all he ever earned." The next week, Carl's assets, house, lands, everything were transferred. The jewelry and the vault, once silent, now held futures untold. June took possession of the forest home, its land, and every heirloom tangled in its roots. The tunnel's blueprints rewrote town history. The The state recognized her claim, confirming not just the property but her bloodline. Damages and interest tipped the total estate over $45 million. She wired every cent needed to launch a new foundation out of the vault, a safe home for homeless single mothers. Some of the jewels paid the startup. The rest would be displayed, not buried in the old house, now transformed with rooms for women and children lost in the world's shuffle. Each night she walked the grounds, remembering her first steps on the moss, the slap of wind, the cold ache in her chest. Now laughter echoed in the halls, warm soup bubbled on a shared stove, and hope nested where secrets had festered. Sometimes justice isn't just winning a fight, but making sure no one ever sits alone behind a locked door again. When the past offers you nothing but scraps, build something bigger than anger. That's the only profit worth the price. And if you're ever handed the keys to what looks like nothing, open every door twice. Some vaults are waiting for hands just bold enough to try. Spring rolled toward summer, and Lewiston's air grew lush and thick with pine resin and cut grass, the spent chill of old winters lifting from the crooked eaves of 412 elm. The changes to the house came in rippling, practical bursts. Battered siding replaced, leaky windows swapped for new glass, a battered ramp rising to the porch for strollers and wheelchairs. Kids' chalk marked the cleaned-up sidewalk, a pair of rubber boots waited beneath a coat rack, signs of small, sacred chaos returning. June perched on the porch's edge with a mug of coffee cooling in her hands. Across the lawn, two women tended a garden patch, arms deep in black earth, while a pair of kids, one red-haired, one dark, shouted at a squirrel that refused to yield a single acorn. Sometimes she caught her own reflection in the window, hair wild, eyes tired but clear. She looked almost unrecognizable from the bruised, half-starved stranger who'd crossed the threshold just weeks before. Pearson visited twice a week, sleeves rolled to his elbows and contracts tucked inside a battered folder. He'd become something of a guardian, half lawyer, half confidant, though he refused June's every invitation to dinner, claiming he ate only case law. On a Thursday near the end of June, he arrived beneath an umbrella, nodding at the cluster of bikes chained to the rail. "Can you believe this place?" he murmured, more to himself than to June. "Last year I'd have said this house was fit for ghosts." "Ha," June replied, nudging the door open with a foot. "Maybe it still is, just decent ones now." Inside, voices and laughter tangled in the kitchen. The former parlor, once Carl's hoard room, now held bright playmats, a desktop computer, community boards pinned high with job leads and meal schedules. The vault's jewelry sat in shadowbox frames under glass, a sign posted in her handwriting. "Winter's women's inheritance, always by courage, never by greed." Pearson eyed the display, trademark frown at half-mast. "You ever tempted to just take it all, start over somewhere else, never look back?" She thought of it. She'd be lying if she said she hadn't, but the thought always struck sour, a feeling in her chest like a broken note. "I have everything I want right here. What did you bring?" He set the battered folder on the counter. Charter approval from the state went through. The Winters Foundation is officially a nonprofit. That's the last red tape. He slid a stack of letters forward. And the first checks, donors, legal settlements, and, well, apologies from a few old enemies come calling now that there's press. June shuffled through, mouth quirked. I'll need an assistant just to answer half these." "You'll get more," he promised. "Some folks show up when the storm's past. And about Carl, he signed over the last parcel yesterday from a motel outside Augusta. He left you a note, or rather left me a note to pass along." She tensed, half expecting a last barb. The envelope was thin, the handwriting sharp, oddly formal. She opened it, Pearson watching like a hawk. The sheet inside was short. "June, you were always braver. I hope you keep the place less haunted than I did. Don't look for apologies. We both did what we had to, I guess. Don't waste the diamonds on bitterness. See asterisk." She folded it once, twice, then tucked it away. That's more generosity than I expected from him. Pearson snorted. It's not quite a confession, but these men, you know how they are, doesn't matter. His power's done here. She sipped her coffee, the taste brighter now. Let's talk expansion. I want the upstairs ready by August. 2 more bedrooms, maybe a counseling office. Think we could get volunteers from the tech school?" Pearson nodded. "With that kind of prize in the vault, you could probably get the mayor to show up and swing a hammer." "Not how this works." June's laugh was quiet but real. "We build slow and honest." After Pearson left, June walked the property lines alone, boots brushing dew from thick grass. The woods pressed in still, green tunnels, scents of wet bark and wild mint. At the base of the twin oaks she paused, fingers running over the scarred bark. The old cellar door gleamed with a fresh coat of paint, new locks in place. She ducked inside, flashlight arcing through cool shadows. The vault no longer frightened her. The only secrets here now were stories, names she'd researched, faces from photographs she'd sent to living relatives. In the deepest tray, she found her great-aunt's journal, unread until now. June ran a thumb across its battered leather, hesitated, then opened to the first yellowed page. "No one believes a woman's word unless there's gold behind it. So I left gold and a map for the one who wouldn't look away." The words unlocked something in her chest, a pride that was mourning and gratitude at once. Every line mapped the pain of exile, the burden of keeping faith alive through loss and betrayal. Each photograph tucked inside, women in hats, blue-eyed girls on bicycles, a parade of laughter and heartbreak, grew the house's history larger than Carl's greed ever could. She closed the journal, tears prickling, and when she emerged, the noon light was pouring through the trees, the world impossibly alive. That evening, she met Hannah in the kitchen, a soft-voiced young woman with a toddler and nowhere else left to go. Hannah watched supper bubble on the stove, her boy perched on a tall stool, drumming a wooden spoon. "I heard you get up early most days," Hannah said, eyes flickering to the shadows of the vault's display through the doorway. "Aren't you tired? This all looks like a lot for one person." June smiled gently, pouring herself another mug of coffee. "It is a lot. Some days I go out and scream into the woods, want to see." Hannah grinned, shyer now. "No thanks, I think my kid does plenty for both of us. I keep waiting for someone to tell me we have to leave or that this is a joke." "It's not," June promised, voice anchored. "You stay as long as you need, until you're stronger than the last time you left somewhere behind." Hannah stirred the soup, lids trembling slightly. "I had a house once. Thought I held on to it too tight. Now I know sometimes you can't build home without someone lending you ground." "You're lending it right back," June replied calmly. "Every time you make breakfast or help, every time you hold someone's kid. That's how roots work. They tangle up and nobody can pull them out easy." Hannah nodded, silent, but her spine straightened, the frown between her brows softening. Court paperwork and settlement checks faded into the discipline of living. Laundry, mended socks, calls to social workers. June learned the rhythm of the house the way her aunt's words taught her. Never close a door unless someone asks, always have something warm on, and don't forget to laugh. Word spread. A battered minivan arrived every couple days, bruised women and nervous children stepping out, faces first wary, then slowly relieved. The forest home grew full. One afternoon, a stranger appeared at the end of the drive, an older woman with faded tattoos down her arms. She held a slim envelope and a bouquet of garden daisies. "Winter's Place," she called. June met her at the porch. "You found it. What brings you here?" The woman's gaze dropped, then steadied. "Name S. Leela. My grandmother was a Winter's Clara. She used to tell me stories about jewels under the floor, bad blood, runaways. I always thought she was just talking nonsense, but—" She glanced at the porch, the laughter through the window and the shadow of the vault beyond. "I saw you in the paper. Didn't know any blood of mine could pull off something like this. Would you mind if I just looked?" June stepped aside, warm. "This place welcomes its history. Come on in. We've got old photos you might remember, maybe even more family than you thought." They spent the afternoon comparing stories, piecing together half-lost faces from a century of loss. Leela left with copies of inherited letters, tears shining in her wrinkled cheeks. "It's good to know some stories were true," she whispered at the front gate, and good to know there's more waiting for anybody willing to fight for them. Late that night, June curled on the window seat outside the vault, moonlight tracing the angles of her new world. Rain pattered against the restored glass, the sounds of sleep, gentle, safe, rose through the house's bones. She pressed her palm against the oak floor, feeling the thrum of a place reclaimed. Her phone buzzed Pearson, texting after hours. Unanimous approval from the community board. Local papers want an interview. Do you want your story told? Or should I turn them away? She smiled, thumbs tapping quietly. Tell them the truth, but not the numbers. Tell them about roots, rebuilt doors, and what happens if you follow the light where it changes. Tell them the winter's women left the vault open for good. A minute later he replied, simple and soft. Proud of you, June. See you Monday. By the close of that first brilliant summer, the Winters house on Elm Street was no longer hidden. It was marked on maps as a shelter, a stop in stories about hope. Sometimes neighbors left bouquets on the steps, handwritten notes of thanks for fixing what was broken, for not selling us all out, for believing a woman's word. June kept the old keys hanging in the entryway, rusted, still smelling faintly of cedar and thyme. Once or twice, she caught Hannah or Layla or another new friend tracing their shape, searching for something lost and maybe found again. The forest remained green and wild as if nothing had changed. But June knew the best kinds of secrets aren't the ones you hoard, but the ones you set free. She stood there in the dusk, doors wide, laughter floating out. Miles from where she started, a life measured not in equity but in every second spent with eyes and vault wide open.